Welcome back to Tanya in 5. The last few days we've been studying chapter 39. In chapter 36 we explained that the purpose for creation is that God wanted to have this world be a home for him. In chapter 37 we explained how this ultimate home for God is created by the act of a mitzvah. In chapter 38 we explained that when one does a mitzvah with the sense of love of God or fear of God, then that mitzvah is injected with a greater sense of life, and therefore more of me is invested in that connection to God or in that revelation of God through the mitzvah. In chapter 39, we add another dimension to love and fear of God. Namely, that the love and fear of God take that mitzvah to a whole nother level. Literally, it brings the mitzvah to a different world. Specifically, the tzaddik, whose love of God and awe of God is such that the only reality for him is God himself. That's what he's doing in his life. He's basking in the reality of godliness. Then his mitzvah lives in a world where godliness is the only reality. Not just a world created by God, but a world that is suffused with godliness. The world itself is godly. This is known in Hebrew as the world of Atzilut, or Atzilus. Now this level is not to be expected for everybody. This is the tzaddik. We are in the book of the Beinoni. Now for the Beinoni, there are two types of love and fear of God as explained in previous chapters. One is a love and fear of God born out of an intellectual understanding of God. And therefore, that would take the mitzvah to a world where they're dominated by the appreciation of godly comprehension. A world that appreciates God on an intellectual level. This is known as the world of Berea. Then there is the love of God that is instinctual to every Jew. If one were to perform a mitzvah out of their existential attachment to God, as explained in previous chapters, then that would take the mitzvah to a world that's dominated by emotional attachment to God. This is known as the world of Yitzira. Reward that the soul experiences in the afterlife is commensurate to the worlds that these mitzvahs were taken to. And that's the world that one would be in life after death. Now, mitzvahs that are done with no intention, just out of routine, just a plain mitzvah, then its performance was here, and there was no intention put into it that to take it anywhere else, and thus that mitzvah just stays here in this lowly world. Moreover, if one were to do a mitzvah with a negative intention, say the person wanted to show off, that's a selfish intention. And as we've explained in previous chapters, selfishness is the absolute opposition to God. So here's a mitzvah, a godly act, but it's being trapped and held back by a selfish intention which is antithetical to godliness. That mitzvah requires a teshuvah, a repentance, so that it be redeemed from its entrapment in that self-centered ego. The takeaway from all of this is we should remember that our thoughts and our intentions aren't just a question of to what degree we're going to behave or how we're going to behave, but they actually transport us, and they transport our actions to a different plane, to a different world. And the question is, what kind of world are you going to live in? What are the intentions behind your actions? That's going to tell you what world you live in a world of materialism or a more lofty world. In the words of the Baal Shem Tov, "B'makom shemachshavta shel adam, sham hu nimtza." The place where a person's thoughts are, that's where he truly is. Looking forward to seeing you when we conclude chapter 40.